according to my computer, we've now hit 6:30. So since we have a quorum, I will call to order the Pickering School Building Committee. Roll call, please.
Mayor Nicholson,
Present.
Brian Castellanos, Deb Ruggiero,
Present.
Diane Charcutis, Flory Makawa, Jessica Gerardo. I have a few people there I gotta let in. Flory's one of them. Hold on one second. Flory, we just did roll call, so if you want to say, I just called your name.
Present.
Jessica Gerardo. Jim Ridley,
Present.
let's see, John Ford, Joe Smart, Karen Miller,
Present.
Kevin Ritterhouse,
Present.
Lauren Drago,
Present.
Lorraine Gately,
Present.
Michael Bertino, Mike Donovan,
Present.
Molly Cohen,
Present.
Peter Kolakitis, let's see, and Brian Castellanos just joined us. Brian, we're calling roll now if you want to state your presence.
Present.
Rich Marlin,
Present.
Rick Starbird, Stephen Smith, Tom Mannion,
Present.
Tom McGee, and Wayne Losey.
Present.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks to everyone who was able to make it in person and online at the forum on Monday. Really appreciate that. It's good to see all of you. I will turn it over to Lynn, who I think is sharing her screen.
Okay, I'm gonna put it in slideshow. Okay, so quickly, we're gonna go through a few administrative actions, approval of the November 17th meeting minutes, and give you a quick update on the project budget. Then I'll turn it over to Jean, who will go over just a little bit of feedback from the public forum, an overview of the site selection process, and then we'll be asking someone to make a motion to vote to approve the selection of the preferred site, and then Superintendent Ruggiero will give us a quick update on the educational visioning and educational program, our plan update. Then we'll quickly review schedule and then open it up for other business and discussions. First on the agenda is to vote to approve the November 17th, 2022 SBC meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Lynn, are you the host?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Can you yeah. Thank you. Well, there's a motion. Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Next up is a quick overview. We have expended 13% of our feasibility study schematic design budget, and we have committed 84% of that budget to date. It includes the most recent commitment of translation services to date, as well as printing services under the OPM services line item. So we have expended $194,730 to date, with a remaining balance of $1,315,270. And this is just a quick overview of our cash flow to date. We have expenditures running out through the end of October 2023, which will take us to the end of the schematic design process. And I'm going to turn it over to Jean to give you a quick run through of some of the slides from the public forum on Monday night. And hopefully we will end this presentation with a motion from the school building committee to vote on the preferred site.
Great. Thank you, Lynn, and hello, everyone. Assuming, I don't want to make, I think Lynn has all the slides that we presented Monday night in the public forum, and I don't want to go into as much detail tonight, just trying to be respectful of people's time. But I would say that if anyone has any questions as I provide overviews, that Lynn can certainly pull up slides and we can address questions or comments. So what we started with was this slide, which is an overview of the 6 sites that we deemed large enough and were in the right location in terms of the city: Gowdy Park, the Union Hospital site, the existing Pickering Sisson site, a site on Broadway, and a site on Rockdale Ave, both of which are privately held, I guess, as is the Union Hospital, and then finally Magnolia Park. So Lynn, if you just go to the next slide. I think everyone's seen this graphic. We have circled all 6 sites, and we explained to the community that there were various considerations, and some sites met them well, and some sites didn't, and sometimes it varied. We had worked with you last time to take the 6 sites, and pretty much right away we considered 3 of them not to be practical: Gowdy Park and the former Union Hospital site, numbers 1 and 2, just because of their location far up in the northern part of the city. And this is keeping in mind that the district will be rebalancing their middle school population, so they'll be moving pupils from Thurgood Marshall and from the Reed Middle School to this new Pickering. So there's about 550 pupils at Pickering now. And as you all know, the MSBA approved this for 1,100 pupils. So having those sites so far north is really pulling a lot of traffic all the way through the city and not deemed practical. The last one that was not practical is number 5, which is the existing Pickering and Sisson site. It is not large enough for a new school. A new school is preferable for many reasons, one of which is that it gives the city the best chance or opportunity to meet the goals of the educational visioning and the educational program. There's certainly other complications with that site. If you're going to build there, where are you going to move pupils out of those 2 schools while you construct? So we looked at an addition renovation on the existing Pickering site, and it required taking 3 private parcels to the west, which is towards Broadway. We did identify, with your help, 3 sites, number 3, 4, and 6, that were deemed worthy of further exploration. So Magnolia Park, which is out behind Pickering, and 2 private sites, one on Rockdale Ave and one on Broadway. So we can quickly go through these, and again, we can pull up any slide at any time. But this is the former Union Hospital site, privately held. You'd be taking 3 commercial properties, if not more, off the tax rolls, and it's just way too far north in the city. The existing Pickering School, we've shown an addition renovation, which is again to the west of the existing Pickering, and we're showing the property lines of the private parcels that would have to be taken. This addition over toward Broadway is at least 3, probably 4 or 5 stories high. So it has quite an impact. The 3 finalist sites are number 3, 4, and 6. Number 3 is what we call Broadway. That's up on the Peabody line. 3 and 4, really, we decided not to recommend as a preferred site because they are up on hills, and they are in solid bedrock. So there's probably about a year's worth of just preparing the site, just knocking down the hills, transporting ledge, blasting, all that stuff to get a plateau to build upon. Number 3 is complicated because like Gowdy Park or Union Hospital, you're pulling people to the edge of the city, and that has negative traffic impacts. Number 4, Rockdale is kind of buried in the middle of 3 or 4 neighborhoods. It's also kind of more importantly, well off any of the MBTA bus routes, which is how many of the pupils will be getting to the school. So this is the Broadway site. One thing we didn't think we'd have to do at Rockdale Avenue was take residential properties. At Broadway, I think the city would have to take 2, if not 3 properties just to get access into and out of the site. When I talk about the bedrock, so it's a schedule impact, which means you can't start building for, let's say it's another year because you're prepping the site. So meanwhile, the cost of construction is going to inflate for another year, whatever that rate happens to be. This past year, it was a very significant rate. And then there's the disturbance. The site that we landed on as our recommendation is number 6, Magnolia Park. And there's a few opportunities here. What the most important is it's the most centrally located of all the sites that we explored. And remember that the city, we don't know what the redistricting is going to entail, but we know that we will be pulling, or you will be pulling students from Thurgood Marshall and or Breed up into this new district. So the streets that have the yellow highlighted lines on them are all streets that are serviced by MBTA bus routes, and they connect to various parts of the Thurgood Marshall and Breed districts. The purple line that runs through the site, maybe Lynn can trace it with her cursor, is an MWRA water line that services, my understanding, the towns of Swampscott and Marblehead. So that is one of the things that we will have to work around. And we've shown a building footprint there in color that would be multiple stories, whether it's 4 or 5 stories, but we could construct this building. We could raise it up a couple feet so it's out of a floodplain, and we could avoid having to have any complications with the MWRA, which not only would have cost, but schedule impact. The other thing about this site is that there are no takings required. As I said, it's near the MBTA bus routes, and it's most centrally located. We know that the soils here are not bedrock. So this would be constructed similar to how Thurgood Marshall was on a pile foundation. And so, everyone's aware how that works. We have a good understanding of how we would support the school, as I say, kind of lift it up out of the floodplain. We had talked, I think at our last meeting, about some legislative action that will have to occur, taking this from park property and transferring it to school or city property for the construction of the school. So that's a process that we would start working on and supporting the city with during the next phase. I'm good, Lynn. So this is just the traffic and location overview that we shared with the committee. You can see on the top one, Broadway is right on the Peabody line. And it's pretty remote, especially when you look at the bottom one, Magnolia Park. And you can see those yellow highlighted roads are all the bus lines, which again, the school department does not provide school buses. So if parents are either driving or kids are walking if they're close, or to our understanding, many of them are going to be taking MBTA buses. So that's why we landed kind of down on Magnolia as probably the best site to put this school. Then I think the next one is just a graphic that really was an eye-opener to us. We have the same 3 sites, and any of the shapes that have the red lines running horizontally through them are bedrock, just solid rock. So you can see that Broadway to the north and Rockdale in the middle are just up on these ridges. And not only is it a schedule impact, therefore a money impact, it also really complicates how you would deal with stormwater management. So if you had a big rainstorm, the water might go down through the soil, but it's going to hit rock and it's not going to go any further. It's going to go left, right, or wherever it's going to go. So managing that would be a severe complication. And you can see Magnolia Park down on the bottom is not in the bedrock layer. And again, we know how to deal with these soil conditions at Magnolia. So that.
There's a question.
Yeah, so just had a quick question. If you could go back to the previous slides, Gene, how you actually plan on mitigating the stormwater issues that we all know that exist on Magnolia Park, visibly exist?
Yep. So we already know about kind of the basics that, you get an overflow from the pond up on the upper left of the slide, and it kind of sometimes overflows Broadway down through the site to the pond on the lower right. There is a floodplain on this site, but our civil engineer has said that it's a very shallow floodplain, and that we really only would have to raise the building 2 or 3 feet above the existing ground level, and the water would simply pass underneath it. And that's if you think about, or if you're familiar with Thurgood Marshall, when you go to the front door there's a ramp and stairs. That slab is up probably 3 or 4 feet from the existing sidewalk. So it's not anything that's going to have an aesthetic impact. The other thing I want to say is that we call these test fits, right? These are not the designs for the building, but we just want to kind of assure ourselves that we can fit something on the site one way or another. The city might, as we get into the next phase, we might take a look at maybe raising part of the ground floor you're looking up even higher, and maybe parking underneath part of it, so we could save some of the play area other places, on the park.
Okay. All right. So there won't be any dewaterizations happening both during construction and for the 100 years this building's going to exist. There will never be a reason to put any pump, to mitigate some of the stormwater.
No, there would be no pumping whatsoever. If anything, we would allow water to flow underneath the building and not.
Okay.
We would have stormwater retention, but no active dewatering.
So there will be a retention
System probably,
systems?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
We have
There's another,
question, Tom.
Yeah, another question from Tom, yeah. You're on mute, Tom. Tom.
Sorry.
No, you're still on mute. We can't hear you.
Tom, can you click the microphone to unmute yourself? There you
There you
go.
go.
Oh, all right. Okay, I see. Okay, going back to the mid-90s, I was like the president of Wyoming Little League, which is the Little League field right by the school. And as Gene was talking about, we had horrific rainstorms in October of 95 or 96. The water did cascade down. It went into the Little League field, into the elderly housing place over there, and of course into Magnolia Playground across the street. So, I mean, raising the building is one part of that, but I think overall, Gene, something's got to be done maybe to capture that water. I know you just said something about it, Lynn, but it would be a big concern to me. And that's one of the concerns. I think it's a major one because I live down off of Euclid Ave. I do, my main street is Euclid Ave, Perry, Magnolia Street. We drive around. Our area floods where we live. So any way at all to take this water and just move it into the city system would be, I think, an ideal situation. I mean, the time is now to do it properly.
Yeah, now is definitely the time. And, it's obviously good to understand the history. And, working with the city departments, that's clearly going to be one of the charges. As part of this project to try to mitigate whatever we can.
Could I just say one more thing?
Sure.
Living in that area, I drive those streets all the time. The traffic is tough now. We're going to add 500 students to that area. I want to first say Magnolia has always been my first choice. I think it's the best choice for everything. But if these things have to be worked in somehow, that maybe we can get some of these cars off the street and have a pull through the school where the parents can pick the children up. Yep. And not have them walking through the neighborhood. The amount of traffic, I don't know if Lynn or Gene, have you guys gone through there at the morning or the afternoons to see what the traffic is like in that general area?
Yeah, as part of the well, no, we've known for years that this is this whole neighborhood has a lot of congestion. The part of the next phase of the study, if the school building committee were to say yes, pursue more study on Magnolia, we would work with the city and a traffic engineer that's on our team to do as much of a traffic study in the whole neighborhood as we can, Tom, and try to figure out options for mitigating the impacts as much as we can.
I certainly don't want to slow down the project. I know how important it is. It's just that should be worked into this whole equation because it's tough, and when it snows and the roads close in, it's even worse. So that's just my point. I just want to go on record for saying that. Okay.
Yep.
Lorraine?
I agree with Tom on both of the issues of the flooding. And a very good friend of mine that worked with me in the public schools for years, lives on Magnolia, explained to us about that flooding, and it is pretty bad. And people are saying that is one of the major concerns they have with that site. The other thing is what Tom is saying about the traffic. And I too want to go on the record as saying that this is a major concern with this site. We really need to look into it. It's not as simple as the water just rolls down. It puddles down there for a while. I mean, people were canoeing in the park. And so I think we really need to look into that and make sure we do the best thing for that area so that we don't have any problems with it. And this is the time to do it. I agree, Tom. Thank you for mentioning that.
We agree too, and obviously it's part of our charge, right? Is to not make anything any worse and to improve the situation where we can. So I'm getting a little bit ahead where maybe Lynn wants to land this, but you know, we're going to be submitting a report in mid to late January to MSBA. And again, if the committee did say, yes, pursue this site, we have kind of this next phase of the report is about 4 months to really dig in and look at options, problems, and potential solutions for whatever site you choose.
So the project team is making a recommendation that the SBC vote to approve Magnolia Park as the preferred site. And with that, I'll turn it over to the SBC to make a decision on what they want to do.
What?
So, Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to recommend the Magnolia site.
Second.
Second,
Second,
Motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Unfortunately, I have to stop sharing to call the list. Hold on. Mayor Nicholson,
Yes.
Brian Castellanos,
Yes.
Deb Ruggiero,
Yes.
Diana Charkoutis,
Yes.
Flory Makua,
Yes.
Jessica Gerardo, Jim Ridley,
Yes.
John Ford, Joe Smart, Karen Miller,
Yes.
Kevin Ritterhouse,
Yes.
Lauren Drago,
Yes.
Lorraine Gately,
yes,
Michael Bertino, Mike Donovan,
Yes.
Molly Cohen,
Yes.
Peter Kolakidis, Rich Marlin,
Yes.
Rick Starbird, Stephen Smith, Tom Mannion,
Yes.
Tom McGee,
yes.
Wayne Lozey.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll reshare. Okay, thank you. So we wanted to give you a quick update on the educational visioning process and where we're at with the educational plan. And I'll ask Superintendent Ruggiero to give a quick update.
Good evening, everyone. We had a series of meetings with teams of community members, teachers, parents. We met, had a leadership team kickoff on October 17th, and then we had 3 visioning workshops, November 9th, 16th, and December 7th, and then a community visioning update on November 30th. We went through a process with David Stephen from New Vista Design to identify project priorities, future ready learning goals, guiding principles, design patterns. What you see on the screen are some design pattern feedback that we got. Many of us felt strongly that we needed academic clusters and small communities, student-centered approach, extended learning spaces, community partnerships, and flexible adaptation.
Okay, thank you. Also, prior to the submission of the preliminary design program, the educational plan will be part of that, and we'll be asking for the district to complete that and to gain approval from the school committee prior to submitting the preliminary design program. These are just a few of the slides that that resulted out of the workshops that we went through, trying to organize a space that worked for the educational goals and objectives. And just very quickly, our next meeting is scheduled for January 11th. Of the school building committee, and that'll be in advance of our January 18th submission of the preliminary design program. We will get you a draft of that submission prior to that date, so that hopefully we can vote to submit that submission on the 18th of January. And just quickly, overall, we're on track with where we wanted to be in terms of the project, trying to complete this first phase of work, the feasibility study, and then schematic design by the October 2023 date, and then hopefully approval of the project to move forward so that we can complete the school by September 2026. And that's really all I had for tonight. I'll open it up for other discussion.
Mayor McGee.
Thanks, Mayor Nicholson. So just, Lynn, if you could lay out, I think, very good questions by both Tom. Tom, I think, laid out some questions that everyone probably has, and Flory as well. So what's the next step in terms of the scheduling and our input and our ability to weigh in and be helpful as we move this project forward? So what, I know the next meeting is the 11th. Are those meetings the only scheduled meetings, and how will we be involved as some of these discussions, particularly, I think, with the input we can give because of our familiarity with some of the issues that your team and Jean's team may not be familiar with, 20 years ago, or some of the flooding issues and the traffic. So just wondering what the schedule looks like related to the committee work.
The next submission, the preliminary design program, is basically submitting the educational plan, and then just these sites that we just went through. We did have the site selection subcommittee. We met a couple of times, I believe, to talk about the sites. But tonight was the culmination of that phase where we selected the Magnolia site. So for the preliminary design program submission, that's all that contains: the site, the process we went through to get to the preferred site, and then the process we went through to develop the educational program. So like I said before, the team will have to go before the school committee to get the educational plan approved. Once that's done, we'll combine all of our information that we've gathered to date, and we will submit a draft to the whole school building committee to take a look at and review and provide any feedback on prior to us submitting on the 18th of January. And we'll be asking, after the school building committee reviews it, we'll be asking for a vote to submit that submission. Then we'll enter into the preferred schematic report, where we'll go in further depth and into the site itself and start to look at different ways we can lay out the building on that site. Some of the issues with the site we'll start to identify and talk about how we're going to address those. So we'll have a series of meetings after we make the preliminary design program submission, where we will meet with the school building committee to go over, and maybe we select some working group members that can meet outside of the school building committee to help advise us as we move through the preferred schematic report phase. But most of the in-depth work on the site and how we might lay out the building on the site will occur in that next phase after the preliminary design program.
Great, thank you.
I think we have a question in the chat. We had a, Danya is saying that we have our April meeting that we had previously scheduled. We'll probably need to change because of the school vacation week. So I will come back to you with a new date for the April meeting at our next meeting. And maybe I should give you a quick update on what happened at the MSB Board of Directors meeting today. They voted to increase the cost per square foot, construction cost per square foot, construction cap. It was at $360 a square foot. They voted to increase it to $393 a square foot, up to a maximum reimbursement cap of $432 a square foot. So that significantly helps this project as we move forward in terms of how much reimbursement that we'll get from MSBA. So that was good news for our project.
Lynn, can I ask a question?
Yes,
You commented on needing school committee approval for the
Yes.
educational plan.
yes.
Well, our next school committee meeting is January 12th, but the board meeting, MSBA board meeting is the 11th.
No,
right?
that's our school building committee meeting.
Oh, sorry.
And so we will just be giving a draft out to the school
Okay.
building committee to look at and review, but prior to the January 18th, we would like a vote of the school committee on the educational plan.
All right, thank you.
Did anybody else have any questions?
Well, looks like we're at the end of the agenda. Just want to thank everyone for joining us this late in the holiday season. This is a huge milestone we just took tonight on this project. And I can't wait to continue working with you all to keep up the momentum to something really amazing for our students. So thank you all so much for your help.
Awesome.
Glad to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Have a good holiday, everyone.
Happy
Everybody have
holiday.
great holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Great
Holidays.
Christmas.
Next year.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Well
Thank
done,
you,
Gene and
everyone.
Lynn.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Good work.
Good night.
Good work.